Well, this is of course a very big subject, because Arvo Pärt is such an important person here in this culture, and he's also very personally important for me. I was very young back then. I think it was in 1986, when occasionally I was here in Tallinn, because I'm originally from Riga. I was here actually playing basketball with a team of the Latvian Academy of Music, and I didn't know anything about Arvo Pärt. He was kind of persona non grata in Soviet times, and exactly at that period they hosted here the first concert of Arvo Pärt's music after he left Estonia, and we were invited to the concert. I still, it was more than 30 years ago from now, I still have very fresh memories about that evening. It was a cultural shock for me. I would never hear music of that depth, serenity, and it really touches me somewhere very deeply. And immediately afterwards, it was very difficult to get his scores at the time, but nevertheless, through friends of friends, I somehow managed to get some of his work, and I believe I was probably one of the firsts who would perform his music in Latvia after his emigration from the Soviet Union. And of course, I've been contemplating on his music a lot, and then there is always this question of why this phenomenon, how somebody suddenly could touch so many hearts and souls. And my speculation is that probably Arvo Pärt has been able to, in a very authentic, in a very precise ways, articulate something that has happened to himself. So he's very organically translating into musical language a deep transformation, deep inner transformation that he has experienced himself in his life. And this authenticity of his story, and of course his craftsmanship, because of course you have to be able to indeed translate these sensations into musical poetry or visual arts or whatever. He's really found that golden key in order to really unlock something very important and deep into human soul. And on the other hand, now working here, and also before I started working with the Estonian Philharmonic Chamber Choir, I've had honor and huge pleasure to meet Maestro several times, both the Latvian Radio Choir and of course here these groups have done a lot of Arvo Pärt's repertoire, and occasionally we have had him around for rehearsal sessions and also for performances, and these meetings are deeply inspiring. He is someone who is always still searching for the best line, for the best possible way how to express this little gesture that he wants to hear in that particular context. So he's someone who is deeply caring of all little tiny details, and at the same time, of course, very generous, very warm heart. Somebody who's very nice just to have around you, if I may say so. It's always a huge professional, but most of all, a humane experience to meet this wonderful person. Nothing really very special. For me, it is quite important to be calm on a concert day. If I have to rush, if I'm late somewhere, that's not good. That makes me feel a little bit nervous. So I try to take my time. I try to get a little bit of sleep in the middle of the day. And it's also very important for me to be with that music that I'm going to perform. Not that I would learn it in the last moment or that I would make any changes, but for me it is important just to be with it, to contemplate a little bit on what we are all going to do in the night, just to somehow get into that zone, into that world of what that particular program presents or features. I expect people to be ready and to be open for a kind of communion, for a kind of communication, for a conversation. I expect the audience to kind of put aside one's own prejudice, one's own concepts, and just engage oneself into this process of being together and with communicating certain things and ideas. I think it's very important because the Western world, of course, lives in very rigid concepts. You know, we divide things in white and black and good and bad, and sometimes we have a very clear idea of what is good and what is bad and what I like and what I don't. And sometimes we label things too early, I guess. And then, if you label things too early, then you don't hear them anymore. Then you don't see them anymore. So, yeah, that open soul, open heart, open eyes, and open ears is something that I evaluate very highly in the audience. I have been quite active, physically active. I've done sports, but the further it goes, the more I enjoy being outdoors. Not that I would do camping for weeks. No, not really. I don't even remember when I slept in a tent last night. But I certainly enjoy being outside. I very much enjoy the elements. I like the fresh wind in my face. I like to smell the smells of forest, of meadow, of the sea. I like to see all different colors and shapes that nature creates, and I really like more and more to be out. Not so many museums and art galleries, and not even that many concert halls lately in my life. Somehow being in the nature is very important and very inspiring for me. Well, I mean, I don't really believe much in political art. I don't consume political art myself. Also big, very painful social questions. I don't think art is communicating these best. I don't want to be somehow elitaristic about it, but I think that arts are somehow beyond. They pull us into a zone which is beyond a political and social whirlpool. At the same time, the arts and music in particular is absolutely essential in order to feed the human soul, in order to open the ear and eye and soul. And without that, I think there is no hope for our civilization as such, and of course, in terms of of the environmental changes that our world is experiencing now. Not only the climate, weather, in terms of weather is changing. Also, I think we need the climate change in our society, the climate change in our civilization, which is much less about competition and much less about division, which is much more about embracing, much more about empathy. And I think music here, and arts in general, but probably specifically music, is very, very important.